My name is Claire Morgan, and at 39 years old, I never thought I'd hear that doorbell again. I was standing inside my $16 million Bel Air estate, the kind of home that sits hidden behind iron gates and sprawling gardens, built on the fortune of the tech empire I created from scratch. For 15 years, silence had been my only connection to the people who once called themselves my family. 15 years of being erased from every photo, every gathering, every holiday table. And now, here they were, faces pressed against the security camera, a mix of awe and desperation staring back at me. The very same family who once tossed me aside had come crawling back. Before I tell you what happened when I finally opened that door, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Because trust me, you'll want to hear how I watched the color drain from their faces when they realized what was coming. I grew up in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. My father, Richard, worked as a senior engineer at a reputable firm, and my mother, Helen, was an elementary school teacher who seemed beloved by her students. Our house had 4 bedrooms, a white picket fence, and even a Labrador named Daisy. To neighbors, we were the picture of stability. But behind those walls, the story was very different. I was the youngest of 3. My brother Ethan was the golden child, tall, athletic, the quarterback who had scouts circling him before he even turned 16. My sister Marissa was the family's shining star in her own way, a beauty queen with perfect curls, a gifted pianist, and the pride of every family dinner. And then there was me. Claire, the afterthought. From as early as I can remember, the imbalance was clear. When I brought home straight A's, my mother would nod and say, "That's expected." But when Ethan or Marissa did the same, the entire house turned into a celebration. Cake, balloons, a night out for dinner. My father never missed one of Ethan's football games. He'd stand in the bleachers screaming until his voice was hoarse. But when I qualified for the state science fair in 5th grade, he said he was too busy with work. Later, I found out he'd simply rearranged his schedule to attend Ethan's practice game. The clearest memory of where I stood in that family came on my 10th birthday. I had helped my mom make little invitations by hand, inviting a few school friends over. I woke up that morning full of excitement, but at breakfast, she crushed me with a casual announcement. "Claire, there's been a change of plans. Ethan has a championship game today. We'll reschedule your party." My friends were supposed to arrive in 2 hours. Tears burned in my eyes as I whispered, "But Mom, they're already coming." That's when my father looked up from his newspaper and said the words that would echo in my head for years. "Don't be selfish, Claire. Family comes first. Family comes first," except it never seemed to apply when it came to me. That day, I sat in the bleachers for 3 long hours, forgotten, while everyone cheered for Ethan. No one sang happy birthday. No cake, no presents, just leftover pizza from Ethan's victory dinner. I ate alone in my room while tears fell onto my plate. And as for Marissa, she made sure to twist the knife deeper. As a teenager, she loved to exclude me, locking me out of her room when friends came over, mocking me, and brushing it all off with a fake smile when our parents noticed. "Claire's just being dramatic," she'd say, and they always believed her. Ethan didn't torment me the way she did, but his indifference hurt just as much. He could have protected me. He could have spoken up, but he chose silence. The only person who ever made me feel seen was my grandmother, Margaret. She'd visit once a month, bringing books because she noticed how much I loved to read. Unlike my parents, she praised my curiosity. She came to every science fair and sat proudly in the front row of my school plays. "You have a special spark, Claire," she used to whisper as we baked cookies together. "One day, the world will see it too." Those words were the only lifeline I had in a house that made me feel invisible. By the time I was 23, I thought I had finally escaped the shadows of that house. I had graduated from Stanford with honors in computer science, specializing in cybersecurity. I'd landed a job at a promising startup in San Francisco, my first real step toward independence. For the first time, I believed I might be able to earn my family's respect. And then, my world shattered. The call came on a gray Tuesday morning. Grandma Margaret, the only person who had ever truly loved me, was gone. A sudden heart attack. I dropped everything and flew back to Milwaukee, my heart heavy with grief. The funeral was somber. My parents stood with Ethan and Marissa, arms linked, presenting their version of family unity. Not one of them asked how I was holding up, even though everyone knew how close Grandma and I had been. I sat alone in the front pew, clinging to the last bit of warmth I had left in this family. But the real devastation came later, during the reading of her will. We gathered in my parents' dining room. The lawyer unfolded the papers, his voice steady as he listed Margaret's possessions. Her house went to my mother. Ethan got her car. Marissa received her jewelry collection. And then, to my beloved granddaughter, Claire, the lawyer read, I leave my ruby ring and $5,000. Claire, you were always special to me. I know you will make me proud. The room fell silent. My eyes welled up, not because of the money, but because Grandma had chosen me. She had seen me. The ruby ring had belonged to her own grandmother, a priceless heirloom I cherished more for its meaning than its value. But before I could even thank the lawyer, my mother scoffed. $5,000 and an old ring? That's it? My father's face turned red. This is outrageous. Margaret always favored Claire for some reason. I finally found my voice, maybe because she was the only one who ever showed me kindness. That's when the bombshell dropped. You want to talk about kindness? My father barked. We took you in when no one else would. You're not even our daughter, Claire. The words sliced through me like glass. I stared at him, shaking. What are you talking about? My mother looked down at her lap. We planned to tell you when you were older, but it never seemed like the right time. The truth hit like a thunderclap. I wasn't their child. I was adopted after my birth mother. My mother's old college roommate died in a car accident. No father in the picture. No one else willing to take me. And they had kept it from me my entire life. So everyone knew? Everyone except me? I whispered. Marissa smirked. It wasn't exactly a secret. We just didn't talk about it. The words blood family were thrown around like daggers. Ethan even muttered that the ruby ring should stay with real family. But then the lawyer read Margaret's note aloud. True family is about love, not blood. My father slammed his fist on the table. That woman spent her life filling Claire's head with nonsense, making her think she was special. We only wanted her to know her place. I stood up, trembling. And what exactly was my place, Dad? To be grateful every day that you reminded me I wasn't good enough? To be a charity case you regretted? The silence that followed was answer enough. In that moment, I realized the truth. I had never been a daughter to them. I was an obligation, a placeholder, a mistake they never let me forget. I gathered my things. My voice was barely a whisper. Fine, I'll go. But tell me one thing. Did you ever love me at all? No one spoke. Not Ethan, not Marissa, not even Helen. So I walked out of that house, out of their lives. And I swore that day I would build something so great, so undeniable, that they would regret ever casting me aside. Little did I know, that vow would come true in ways they couldn't imagine. When I left that house, all I had to my name was Grandma Margaret's ruby ring and the $5,000 she left me. That was it. No family, no safety net, just me. I moved to San Francisco, one of the most expensive cities in America, and reality hit me fast. My share of a tiny apartment with two strangers swallowed half my savings instantly. My bedroom was barely big enough for a twin bed and a desk. The walls were thin, the kitchen falling apart, and the bathroom had to be shared between the three of us. But it was mine. It was freedom. I picked up an entry-level tech support job at a small software company. The pay was awful, barely covering rent and groceries. My days were spent answering angry phone calls, fixing forgotten passwords, and logging endless tickets no one cared about. My boss even said during a review, "You're overqualified for this job, but at least you work hard." Still, I didn't complain, because I had a plan. At night, while others slept, I was glued to my computer, teaching myself new programming languages, studying cybersecurity frameworks, taking free online courses, competing in coding challenges. Every hour of sleep I sacrificed was an hour invested in the future I swore to build. Money was so tight I lived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. I walked miles to save bus fare. I cut my own hair with dull scissors. My clothes came from thrift stores. Every dollar mattered because I was determined never to crawl back to that family who had thrown me away. 6 months later, one decision changed everything. I attended a free workshop at the public library where a Berkeley professor named Dr. Diana Chen was giving a lecture on cybersecurity. I almost didn't go, but something in me pushed to take that chance. I sat in the back row scribbling notes furiously. After the session, I gathered the courage to approach her with a question about encryption protocols. She raised her eyebrows. "Most people wouldn't catch that detail," she said. "Are you working in the field?" I explained my background, my long nights of self-teaching, carefully leaving out the story of my family. She studied me for a moment and said, "You have a sharp mind. You should come to the hackathon I'm hosting at Berkeley next month." That hackathon became the turning point of my life. I joined a team of strangers, and together we uncovered a major vulnerability in a financial app. Our solution won third place, not first, not even second. But it caught the attention of industry professionals. And for the first time, someone powerful saw me not as an afterthought, but as a force. Dr. Chen took me under her wing as an informal mentor. She said something that would never leave me. "You see vulnerabilities others miss because you think differently. Don't underestimate that." Her belief in me lit a fire. I began sketching ideas for a new kind of security system, one based not on passwords, but on human behavior patterns. I knew I was onto something, but ideas don't pay rent. And dreams don't buy groceries. To keep going, I took a second job bartending at a popular tech hangout. I served cocktails to the very entrepreneurs I dreamed of becoming. I poured drinks for investors who dismissed me when I pitched my idea. Night after night, rejection piled up. 27 investors told me no. Interesting concept, but you're too inexperienced. Come back when you have a prototype. We don't bet on first-timers. Each rejection echoed the words of my family, "You're not good enough. You'll never measure up." But instead of breaking me, it hardened me. I refused to accept their verdict. And then one night, while wiping down the bar, a man named Travis Hale left a $100 tip and said, "That was an impressive answer about data privacy. You actually know your stuff." I thought he was just making small talk. But he came back, again and again, testing me with questions about encryption, data security, and digital threats. Finally, he leaned back and smiled. "You passed. I'm an angel investor in cybersecurity. Show me your business plan." 2 weeks later, I had my first real chance, a $200,000 investment. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to quit tech support, rent a tiny office, and start building the prototype that would change everything. I worked 18-hour days fueled by cheap coffee and raw determination. Every setback, every bug, every sleepless night only pushed me harder. Whenever doubt crept in, I twisted Grandma's ruby ring on my finger and remembered her voice. "You have a special spark, Claire. The world will see it." And for the first time, I truly believed she might be right. 8 relentless months after Travis gave me that first investment, I had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty. The interface was clunky, the design basic, but the technology worked. It proved my concept, that security could be based on behavioral patterns, not fragile passwords people forget or reuse. Travis set up a small demo with a group of investors. My hands shook as I showed them how the system adapted to human behavior, the way you typed, the rhythm of your mouse clicks, even the way you scrolled. At first, they were skeptical. Then one leaned back in his chair and said, "This is genuinely innovative. If you refine this, it could change everything." That was all I needed. Funding followed, enough to hire 3 employees and move from my cramped office to a real space in downtown San Francisco. My company, which I named Sentinel Systems, was born. We launched our first product quietly, but the reaction wasn't quiet at all. TechCrunch called it a revolutionary approach to digital security. Within months, we had licensing deals with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Suddenly, my name, Claire Morgan, started appearing in articles I had only ever dreamed of being mentioned in. For 2 years, I barely slept. I handpicked every new hire, not just for their technical skills, but for their integrity. I was building more than a company. I was building the family I'd never had. At Sentinel, birthdays were celebrated, victories were shared, and no one was ever made to feel invisible. Dr. Diana Chen visited our office one afternoon and smiled. "You've created something special here, Claire. And I don't just mean the technology." She was right. Sentinel's culture was built on respect and recognition, the exact opposite of what I grew up with. Our second product, a secure communication platform built on our authentication system, caught the attention of government agencies. Then came international corporations, desperate to protect trade secrets from espionage. Contracts worth millions flowed in. By year 3, Sentinel Systems was valued at over $100 million. For me, the success was both thrilling and hollow. I traded thrift store clothes for tailored suits, a bus pass for a Tesla, and my cramped apartment for a glass-walled condo overlooking the bay. Outwardly, I was unstoppable. Inwardly, I was still that little girl staring at cold pizza on her birthday, wondering why she had never been enough. But I pressed on. 5 years after launching Sentinel, we secured a $200 million contract with a global banking consortium. The office erupted with champagne and cheers. My employees cried tears of joy when I announced bonuses. But that night, I celebrated alone on my balcony, a billionaire on paper, and yet emptiness echoed in the silence of my condo. And then I made a decision that would change everything. If I couldn't have the family I was born into, I would create a sanctuary that would never again make me feel small. I found it in Atherton, California, a sprawling $16 million estate with 7 bedrooms, a guest house, and 3 acres of gardens. To my financial advisor's raised eyebrow, I said, "This isn't just a house, it's a statement." Over the next 6 months, I renovated it to reflect who I had become. One wing became a personal library, my childhood dream come true. Another was converted into a state-of-the-art office. But the jewel of the property was the garden, designed as an English-style paradise with winding paths, hidden benches, and year-round blooms. In the far corner, I placed a memorial bench for Grandma Margaret, surrounded by her favorite flowers. Every time I sat there, I remembered her words, "You have a spark. The world will see it." And now, the world finally had. But little did I know, the same family who once erased me would soon appear at my gates, desperate, faces full of awe and fear, ready to beg for what I had built without them. It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind I cherished after endless weeks of meetings and travel. I was in silk pajamas, sipping coffee on the terrace of my Atherton estate, watching hummingbirds dance around the feeders. Then the security chime rang. I frowned, tapping the tablet to check the camera feed. And there they were, my parents, Richard and Helen, 15 years older. His once dark hair had gone completely gray, her face lined, though she still clung to that same pearl necklace she always wore. Behind them stood Ethan, heavier now, his athletic build softened by time, and Marissa, immaculately styled as always, clutching the hands of 2 children, a boy around 10, a girl maybe 8. My coffee cup slipped from my fingers, shattering against the stone floor. Ghosts from a past I had buried were standing at my gates. My first instinct was to ignore them, to let them wait under the hot California sun until they slunk away. But curiosity, or maybe that last broken shard of the little girl still desperate for approval, made me press the button to open the gate. Minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, schooling my expression into cool neutrality. My mother stepped forward, arms out as if to hug me. "Claire, you look wonderful." I leaned back, avoiding her embrace. "This is unexpected." My father cleared his throat. "We've been meaning to reach out. When we saw the article about your charity gala in the Wall Street Journal, we thought it was time." And just like that, the truth clicked. They weren't here because they missed me. They weren't here because they regretted their cruelty. They were here because they had seen evidence of my wealth splashed across a national newspaper. Still, I motioned them inside because part of me wanted to see just how far this performance would go. They followed me into the living room, awe poorly hidden in their eyes as they stared at the marble floors, the glass walls, the original art on the walls. Ethan let out a low whistle. "Quite a place you've got here." "Thank you," I said evenly, placing coffee cups on the table. My finest porcelain, of course. We sat in silence until Marissa broke it, her manicured hand resting protectively on her children. "These are my kids, Lucas and Emma, your niece and nephew." 2 pairs of innocent eyes studied me curiously, eyes that had never seen me in their lives because their mother made sure of it. "They're beautiful," I replied politely, even as the air in the room tightened with unspoken history. Then my mother began to cry. We've missed you, Claire. All these years we thought of you. I set my cup down carefully. Interesting, I must have missed the birthday cards, or the Christmas greetings, or any sign that I wasn't erased from your lives. My father shifted uncomfortably. After the way things ended, we didn't know how to reach out. I stared at him. You could have tried. Then Ethan leaned forward. We've been following your career. We're proud of you, Claire. The words turned bitter in my mouth. Proud? Now you're proud. Not when I graduated with honors. Not when I founded Sentinel. Not when I was building everything from nothing. Only now, when I have a mansion and a billion-dollar company. Silence fell. Thick. Heavy. And then my father finally spoke the words I'd been waiting for. We didn't just come to reconnect. We also came because, well, we could use your help. There it was, the mask ripped away. I leaned back, heart pounding but voice steady. Help. What kind of help? Financial help, he admitted, his eyes darting to the floor. The company went bankrupt. The economy's been brutal. At my age, I can't find work. Ethan lost his job. Marissa, well, her divorce has been messy. We were hoping... Hoping what? I asked, my tone sharp. That you could help us restart the family business. Maybe a loan. $2 million should be enough. You could even be a silent partner. Keep it all in the family. The family. That word again. Spoken only when it suited them. Marissa chimed in softly, gesturing toward her children. It's not just for us, Claire. It's for them, your niece and nephew, their future. I studied their faces, desperate, calculating. The same family who had thrown me away when I was nothing, now wanted a piece of everything I had built. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I would do. I let their words hang in the air for a moment, my silence making them shift uncomfortably. Then I smiled, not warmly, but the way a boardroom shark smiles when they already know how the meeting will end. $2 million, I repeated slowly, and shares in my company. Keep it all in the family, right? They nodded eagerly, mistaking my calm tone for consideration. I stood, smoothed the fabric of my blouse, and left the room briefly. When I returned, I carried a leather-bound album and my laptop. I set them both down on the coffee table, crossing my legs as though this were just another negotiation. Before we talk money, I said evenly, let's catch up on the last 15 years. After all, we're family. I opened the album. Page 1. A Facebook post from Thanksgiving, just 3 months after they'd cast me out. My parents smiling around a turkey, Ethan and Marissa at their sides. The caption read, Grateful for family today and always. I turned the page. Christmas, same year. The caption, nothing better than having the whole family together. I looked up. Tell me, Mom, did you use the ornaments I made in elementary school that year, or did those get tossed out with my baby pictures? Helen's face flushed crimson. Page after page, I laid out their so-called complete family gatherings. Birthdays, weddings, baby showers, anniversaries, every event where I had been deliberately erased. Marissa finally snapped. Why would you keep all this? I closed the album with a quiet thud. Because you taught me well, Dad. Know your enemy. Always keep receipts. Their faces went pale. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up an email from 12 years ago. I read it aloud. Claire, I must insist you cease any attempts to contact family members. Your Christmas card upset your mother. We've moved on with our lives. Please respect our privacy. Richard Morgan. I looked at my father. That was in response to the one and only holiday card I ever sent after leaving. A card that simply said, Merry Christmas. No accusations, no demands. And that was your reply. Richard's eyes dropped to the floor. I scrolled again. Here's another gem. An email from Marissa to her friend, accidentally copied to me 3 years ago. I read it word for word. Saw another article about my sister, the so-called tech genius. Mom won't shut up about it. As if being rich makes up for how weird she was growing up. Marissa's face went scarlet. That was taken out of context. I cut her off. No, that was the context. I snapped the laptop shut and leaned forward. My voice dropped to steel. For 15 years, you lived your lives as if I never existed. You erased me. You laughed about me. You told me to stop contacting you. And now you come here, in awe of what I've built, asking for millions as though family is something you can pick up and drop when convenient. They squirmed in their seats. My mother began to cry. My father clenched his jaw. Ethan stared at the floor. I stood, walking to the window where sunlight spilled across the garden bench I had dedicated to Grandma Margaret, the one person who had ever truly loved me. I turned back, my voice cold but clear. Let me be very direct. I don't need parents who only remember me when they're broke. I don't need siblings who mocked me but now want handouts. And I don't need a family that erased me for 15 years but suddenly remembers I exist when I'm in Forbes. Their faces drained of color. But then I softened, just slightly, as my eyes landed on the children, Lucas and Emma, wide-eyed and confused by the tension in the room. I don't punish children for the sins of their parents, I said gently, lowering myself to their level. I am your Aunt Claire. You don't know me, and that's not your fault, but I'd like to know you if you'll let me. Their mother shot me a look, but I ignored it. Then I stood, addressing the adults again. So here's my answer. I won't give you $2 million. I won't sign over shares of Sentinel, but I will establish education funds for Lucas and Emma, funds that only cover tuition, books, and school costs, money you will never touch. The room exploded with protest. Marissa's pride stung. My father's anger flared. After everything we did for you, you owe us. I raised a hand. No, you did the legal minimum. You fed me, you clothed me, and you made sure I knew every single day that I was an obligation, not a choice. That's not love. That's duty, and I don't owe you a cent for it. Silence. So that's my offer, I finished calmly. Take it or leave it. For a long, heavy moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the quiet tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. My family, the people who had erased me, mocked me, discarded me, sat frozen on my Italian leather sofas, their faces caught somewhere between rage, shame, and desperation. Then my father broke the silence, his voice sharp. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us? We gave you a roof over your head. We sent you to schools other kids could only dream of. And now you think you're too good for us? I looked at him evenly. No, Dad. I think you were never good for me. You did the bare minimum required by law, and you never let me forget it. You made sure I knew every day that I was never truly your daughter, that I didn't belong, and the second I was old enough to be cast aside, you threw me out without hesitation. My mother stood then, tears streaming. Claire, please. We made mistakes. We should have told you the truth sooner. We should have been kinder. But we're sorry now. I tilted my head. Are you sorry for what you did? Or sorry that I became successful without you? Because those are two very different things. She had no answer. Marissa bristled. We don't need your charity. Keep your so-called education funds. We'll manage on our own. I smiled thinly. Good. Then I won't waste my money. But if Lucas and Emma ever reach out to me on their own, my door will be open. I won't punish them for the choices you made. Marissa's jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. I straightened my shoulders and gestured toward the door. This conversation is over. My assistant will be in touch if you decide to accept the education funds. Otherwise, I wish you well. My father's face darkened, that same look I'd seen on my 10th birthday when he told me family came first. Just never me. But this time, I wasn't the scared little girl with canceled party invitations in her hand. This time, I had the power. They rose slowly, the weight of rejection finally pressing down on them. As they reached the doorway, Marissa paused, her voice barely above a whisper. For what it's worth, I am proud of what you've built. Too little, too late. But I gave her a curt nod. Take care of your children, Marissa. Give them what we never had. Then I closed the door. For a moment, I leaned against it, letting the tears come. Not tears of sadness, but of release. For 15 years, I had carried the chains of their rejection, hoping deep down that one day they might regret what they did. And now, standing in my mansion with the echoes of their departure still in the hall, I realized something. I didn't need their regret. I didn't need their love. I didn't need them. For the first time in my life, I was free. I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I knew would understand. Diana, it's Claire. They just left. Can you come over? When she arrived, she found me sitting on Grandma Margaret's memorial bench in the garden, twisting the ruby ring around my finger. She listened as I recounted every word, her hand resting on mine. $2 million? Shares in your company after all those years? The audacity is almost impressive, she said with a dry laugh. For the first time that day, I laughed too. Because she was right. It wasn't about money, it was about control. And I had finally taken mine back. That night, as the sun set over the estate I had built with my own hands, I realized something Grandma had known all along. True family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, respect, and the people who choose to show up when you need them most. And for the first time, I felt at peace. In the weeks after closing that door, I went through a storm of emotions, flashes of anger, waves of grief, and even moments of emptiness. For years, I had secretly held on to a fantasy that one day they would realize their mistakes, that one day they would come back and we would finally be a real family. But when that day actually came, I saw the truth with clear eyes. They hadn't returned out of love. They had returned out of need. And that fantasy, that last fragile hope, finally died. What replaced it was something I hadn't expected: liberation. I no longer needed their approval. I no longer needed to prove my worth to people who had never cared enough to see it. My success, my wealth, my empire, none of it had ever been about them. It was about me, and it was about keeping the promise I had once made to the only person who believed in me from the beginning, Grandma Margaret. So I created something in her honor. I launched the Margaret Grace Foundation, dedicated to children who, like me, had been abandoned or mistreated by the very families who were supposed to love them. The foundation didn't just provide scholarships or financial aid. It offered mentorship programs, legal advocacy, and most importantly, community. A family built by choice, not blood. I invested $50 million of my own money into the foundation. But to me, it wasn't charity. It was healing. Through the foundation, I met young men and women who carried the same scars I once did. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the pain I had endured was being transformed into purpose. Meanwhile, Sentinel systems continued to grow, but more importantly, so did my chosen family: Diana, Travis, my team, my friends. People who had stood by me not because they had to, but because they wanted to. People who celebrated my victories, mourned my losses, and showed up without conditions. That was real family. And as I stood in my garden one evening watching the lanterns glow around Grandma Margaret's bench, I twisted her ruby ring on my finger and whispered, "You were right." The world did see my spark. And it wasn't because of them, it was in spite of them. For anyone listening who has been cast aside, ignored, or told you weren't enough by the people who should have loved you most, hear me now. Your worth is not defined by their blindness. You deserve love. You deserve belonging. And if blood turns its back on you, you have the power to create your own family, one that chooses you every single day. Sometimes the most beautiful families are not the ones we're born into, but the ones we build ourselves. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to create your own family when the one you were born into let you down? What helped you heal? Share your story in the comments. And if Claire's journey touched you today, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words. Because somewhere out there, someone else is sitting alone, wondering if there'll ever be enough. And maybe your story, or mine, is exactly the reminder they need.